Basically what this bill does is it establishes a Department of Immigration Enforcement at the Department of Agriculture. It strips every mention of anything outside the Department of Agriculture communicating with the federal government about immigration issues. It makes Wilton Simpson the lone person that can talk to the federal government about immigration stuff. $20,562,630 in recurring funds and $484 million in one-time non-recurring funds to implement this act. So we'll have state law enforcement, and we'll have municipal law enforcement, and then we'll have Wilton Simpson's agriculture army. During a declared state of emergency, the chief immigration officer shall advise the state and local law enforcement agencies. He's allowed to get the governor to deploy the National Guard. You are a big sugar. Who are you going to pay? Welcome to Loaded Talk. I am your congressman, the third most popular candidate to ever be. I am Frank, and along with me, as always...
What's up, planet Earth? I'm Bean.
Bean, here with the frijoles negros. All right, so things have been popping. Like we talked about last week, Trump has gotten started. There's no mistake that he is president right now. He is doing things. Let's see. We'll just start with this one because it's a fun one. We'll just jump right to it. It was a campaign promise, and he did it. Trump reinstates military members who refuse COVID vaccine. So they're all getting, let's see, the military vaccine mandate was rescinded, blah, 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 whatever. So more than 8,000 service members got fired for refusing to get the vax. And they are going to get reinstated with back pay.
Fair.
Yeah. Like, and we can go, I don't even want to go into the article. It's just a quick campaign thing where it's just like that was one of the things that got me the most about vaccine times, right? Was the mandates. Cause like when the vaccines were rolling out, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get it or not. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm healthy. I don't get flu shots. Not because, I'm a hero or whatever. But they say if you're a healthy, youngish adult, are we allowed to call ourselves young adults at like 40?
Go for it.
Yeah. Youngish. I mean, life expectancy goes on, I think we're technically middle-aged. I know, but I feel like middle-aged should be older than us. Anyway, it is. You're right. Never thought of it that way. But no, it's one of those things like, I never get it because like I don't get sick a lot. My immune system's good. I'm healthy. And so DeSantis rolled it out. He trenched it out by going, hey, let's get the elderly people done first, and then we'll kind of go like elderly and infirmed. I gotta say, like when you take all politics out of things, DeSantis on COVID was very strong. People jump on the 2 weeks to slow the spread. Okay, fine. Like he was on board with that, and in retrospect, it was stupid. It was, but no one knew what was going on. Yes, you can just go like, I ain't doing that. And I kind of said I ain't doing that, but you understand why someone who's leading a state or a company, because that's the thing. Like personally, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's going to be all right. I'll be all right. But I wouldn't tell my employees you have to come in, because that's a lawsuit, because I don't actually know. But no, he tracked the numbers, and like he was like legitimately digesting the numbers. It was something that impressed me about him. Was I heard a press conference and he's talking about stuff because like I had made this like nerdy spreadsheet based on the New York Times data that they release every day, and I had charts and I had a lot of stuff because I'm a fun guy, Charlie. But so I heard him talking one time. I was like, hey, he's right. He knows the data. Like he knows the data, not just has a cue card with the data. But anyway, when the mandate started, that's when things really got squirrely. Because by the time our age group got the vaccine available, I had gotten COVID. You know, like I got in COVID. The lady and I got it thanks to her no good brother. And we survived. But so then it's like, are you going to get the vaccine? It's like, no, now I've gotten the virus, you know? And my stepbrother asked me, you know, are you going to get the vaccine? I was like, yeah, I've had the virus. So now why? He goes, well, they say the antibodies only last 6 months. And I was like, well, we've only known about the virus for 6 months. So I don't know. I don't know. I was like, just the history of every single respiratory coronavirus and the way you build up antibodies. I was like, I'm just going to, while I don't know, I'm going to base my decisions on that. And then we'll see how it unfolds. Maybe it's a mistake. I'll get it later, you know? But like, I'm just going to go with how other respiratory coronavirus behave, you know? But yeah, some military people, they got hosed. And, you know, old Salty Jimmy, he talks about how the military, you're forced for vaccines anyway. You know, like there's a lot of things you have to take because you're getting deployed all these places and you don't have a choice. And I get that. I think this one was new in that it was a very rushed novel vaccine for a novel virus and not actually a vaccine. It was, you know, it was mRNA treatment. It's gene therapy, perhaps. Just, you know, it's not the traditional definition of a vaccine. I think if it were a bit of idle virus delivered in the whatever system, I don't know. I think people would have been like less weird about it. And of course now, from what we know now, where Pfizer's updated their data to say it could cause, you know, heart issues, which used to be a conspiracy theory. You know, it made sense to be cautious, especially if you're a pilot or something. And, you know, if you get myocarditis or something like that, like you might, a lot of these flight boys, you know, they end up in corporate aviation, you know, and it pays well. And so, yeah, you do your 20, you know, you retire, you go get hired at Delta or whatever, you get a nice salary, plus you're sitting on the retirement cash. I mean, it's not a bad life if you can get it, but all of a sudden you take this shot and now you're grounded for your whole life. I mean, you've just negated millions of dollars and you've taken like a guaranteed comfortable retirement and you've like gone like, I don't know, figure it out. My lady.
You know, Pfizer just scooped up a company, right?
Which one?
They develop drugs for carditis. I'm not kidding you.
Myocarditis and pericarditis. I mean, I feel like we made a joke about this. Like it's what you do. You create a problem and then you find who's fixing the problem. You get them too. So now you go take the vaccine. And if you get that problem, take this one too. We got you. Maybe you put them all in the same thing. And like,
it's so nuts.
It is nuts. And like, you know, we don't have to rehash everything COVID because everyone's done it into the ground. But like, you know, the very legitimate doctors who are now part of the administration, when they would say, they would go on, they'd talk about like the mechanics of how coronavirus and respiratory viruses and thyroid and all that kind of stuff work. And you listen to them, you go, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but like all this makes sense, you know, and they're authoritative sounding, you know, that helps. But you know, they tell you, oh, it doesn't work because this doesn't work, but you know, the mechanics of DDDBB, and you go, oh, all that makes sense, you know. And then even when people who are in the development of drugs, and they go, oh, this is why it looks man-made. This virus looks man-made. This is why, like, it appears that the cause of the problems with the vaccine and why it's not across the board is because it's a dumb lipid delivery system. And so as long as it doesn't hit, you know, a heart cell first, as long as it hits a muscle or whatever, you know, you shed the muscle, whatever, you know, boom, 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 spike protein goes out and it does its job. But if it happens to hit a cardiac muscle, well, those things don't die and replace, they just scar. And you go, and they go, you know, most of the times they say aspirate the needle. You know, this one, they're not even advising that. So like sometimes they're getting injected into a vein. They're not designed to be injected into a vein. Anyway, all this to say, if you were listening to non-kooks, I'm not talking about all of people's favorite peoples on the YouTubes and the Rumbles. that say all sorts of stuff. Just like actual doctors from Stanford, like these actual doctors who came at it with just like, well, this is how it's worked forever. You know, I think the government might be hiding something. You go, yeah, okay. I mean, at least hesitation. At least let's pump the brakes for a couple of years, see how it turns out, you know? Mm-hmm. And so the medical community got hit by it a lot. My lady was worried about that. She said she was going to be a waitress before she got forced. Luckily, she worked places where she was able to get exemptions. And, but if not, I would expect back pay for her as well. And so with this, these cats got booted. Now they're all back. They got that money they lost. They're back in the military. Hopefully they haven't gotten fat because everyone's fat in America. We need as many military people as we can get. So welcome back. Hopefully not fatties. And now you got a big old stack of cash too. Like put some of that away. Maybe you've been working steady. So why don't you put that away or throw a party? Who cares? Go to the officers club and buy a round for everyone, you know?
I saw some reserves running the other day and I was like, really?
Ugh. The stat, I think RFK talks about it, that like the children today, like half of them wouldn't qualify for our military because they're so fat. And like, you know, I tell the kid he's one of them, but obviously he's not. I just try to get at him. But no, that's
reverse psychology.
Yeah, I'm like, not even that, just abuse. Just emotional abuse. Just gaslighting, emotional. It's called parenting. Once your child's older, you'll understand. But no, it's you do wonder, and you go like, oh man, like because like re-enlistment's been an issue, but then like physical tests have been an issue. Well, one of these days maybe we'll drag old Jimmy in here and we'll rehash some of the stuff we used to do on the Salt Force thing. Because it is an issue. It's a very big issue. And like with readiness, the Chinese troops don't have an option. You know, it's just you're going to be ready or you'll be dead by our hand, not by the enemy. Right. You know, and so anyway, this is a good step. This is just righting a wrong. Our government did something wrong. It's expensive, but we did something wrong. This is the right thing. All right. So more Trump stuff. He released an executive order about the border. I don't know if we even need to actually, we'll get that in a second. I'm going to move that down here. So he did an executive order about the border, about securing the border, and they got started immediately. They have been chucking people out. And the goal here is to start with people who got convicted of crimes, probably let right back out of jail into the streets, and they're just still here floating around. And so, I mean, from the jump, these dudes have been going crazy. And like, say what you want about whether it's a positive or negative. It's effective. These people are taking it seriously. So let's see. This is NBC News. Immigration authorities, this is from yesterday, made close to 1,200 arrests in just one day, and nearly half of those don't have. Okay, well, this is the counter. Don't have a criminal record. So ICE arrested a total of 1,179 people on Sunday, which is more than the 956 arrests that they posted on X Sunday, but just 613 of the total arrests were considered criminal arrests. So 8 of them were considered worse criminals arrested, which means gang members. But 566 people had not committed any crimes, and they just weren't legal Americans. So being undocumented is considered a civil offense, not a crime, but it's considered a crime when an undocumented immigrant who has previously been deported re-enters. It's unclear how many. All right, so like NBC's kind of giving us a little spin on this where it's like, hey, the nice people are going too. So they asked the border czar, that bulldog fellow, Tom Homan, and let's see. He was aware of at least a few collateral arrests, detentions of people without criminal convictions who were present during the raids, He said these will likely recur as immigration enforcement actions escalate. We want to get as many people as possible, Holman said. They're a public safety threat, and so with somebody else illegally here, they're coming too. So according to ICE arrests, there are 800. So actually, here, we'll do this. Bloop. Bloop, bloop. So ICE has been posting it on their Twitter, how many people they get every day. Oh, do I need to do the thing?
No, you're good.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we got from 5 hours ago, they were like, yeah, we got 969 arrests, 869 detainers lodged. So I think that's people detained at the border. So I think they're arresting people and they're detaining people at the border. Now, one of the incredible things that we didn't cover last week was like that first couple days Trump was in office, they said they busted like 750 people, detained them at the border, which was down from 10 to 15,000 people a day that they were like encountering. Yeah, we didn't encounter that many. We had 700 of them, and we caught them. You know, day before that, 1179, 853 detained, 956 arrested, 554 detained. And so U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, along with the federal partners, including FBI, ATF, DEA, CBT, look, get rid of so many of these people, began conducting enhanced targeted operations today in Chicago to enforce U.S. immigration law. They hit Chicago. They hit Los Angeles.
Is he just reassigning their use, like the ATF and stuff, and the DEA?
I think maybe...
Or getting data from them?
Well, I don't know. I think maybe it could be if you had... like a gang, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like running. So you work with like the DEA's info on like drug operations in Chicago that have been running in some place. And, they're thought to be Venezuelans or whatever. And so you run and do that. So like, I mean, like it or not, I mean, it was something Trump ran on, and he's going, you know, and there's a thought that this will probably start to ramp up more. I know Tom Homan, was that it? Homan or Holman? Hellman?
Homan.
Homan? Hellman? Hellman?
Mayonnaise.
But Homan was saying that like he was complaining because people would get arrested and they're illegal aliens, and instead of just letting ICE go into the jail and take the people who were arrested for crimes who were not legally in the United States, they would release them on the streets. So like if we could go into the jail, it would take one person to get them. He's like, now we have to go hunt them in the wild. It's like it takes lots of people and lots of lives are endangered, you know, which is true. And so one thing from this weekend that happened, this is how I think my Monday began, was... So Colombia, which they do lots of things. They've got some exports, coffee, top country for flowers. That's what you're thinking, Charlie. And also the cocaine. But Trump started blasting them. It was just like, look, where he took a plane load of people to fly him back to Colombia. And the Colombian president was just like, we're not taking those guys. And so Trump was like, oh, well, I guess we're just going to tariff the living hell out of you. And they're like, I don't know. And so they went back and forth a little bit. And then the president was like, you know what? This is silly. Let's send them. And I'll send my presidential plane to get the Colombians that you tried to fly the first time. Like, because we had to turn around with the Colombians and bring them back. He sent his presidential plane, or a plane. He sent a plane. I doubt he sent his favorite plane. Right. But he sent a big old plane to pick up these dudes that we tried to fly out once. And then he's like, hey, we're good now.
He sent a new Boeing plane that's falling apart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. America. So let's see what Al Jazeera, they've got some stuff about that. Well, I wonder if I even want to go through this. Let me just scan. This goes through how many illegals we have from Mexico and all this different stuff. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on on these actions with the ICE, the immigration.
Not surprised. I mean,
Yeah, of course
everyone was like, because I mean, he did it didn't he do it the first term?
I think I don't.
Not this extreme, but like
He didn't get started as quickly, and I mean he changed policies, but this has been a very kind of shock and awe type thing, and I think one thing that they're going to make a lot of hay about is the number of, because they go, hey, we're going to focus on those who committed crimes, and like once we get them out, we'll go from there. And everyone went, cool.
makes sense.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's basically 50-50. They're getting 50% criminals, but it sounds like wherever they're going, there's like half the people there that are either not criminals or have not been caught for being, because like, say you're going after some people like convicted, I don't know, drug dealers, gang people, whatever, and you're storming a place where they are, and you get a couple of them, and there are these other dudes there too. Well, either they're innocents or they haven't been caught yet. Like gangs, like American gangs, when people realized that if you were under 18, you could murder somebody and you'd be out of jail at 18. And so maybe you spend a year, something like that, in juvie. And so gang members would give these kids guns and all that kind of stuff. So you might raid a crack house, and there'd be like, do with record, do with record, do with record. But there might be a handful of people without a record, and that was the whole point of them. It was like, all right, you have not gotten your arrest yet. And the old-fashioned mafia did this kind of stuff too. So I think I'd be interested in hearing some more about this. There's definitely going to be a percentage, whether it's 50% or 25% of what they're calling collateral damage or deportation, where you're getting people who did come to America, they want to live here, they were basically told that they could just walk in and they say, just say these magic words and no one's going to ever throw you out. I mean, they were lied to. That's the problem with a lot of the illegal immigrants, is they were lied to. They were lied to by NGOs running advertisements on the radio in South America, using what sounds like the voice of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. I mean, this was a thing that happened during the first Trump administration. There was reports of these commercials. That sounds like the president and the secretary of state saying, come to America, we won't throw you out. And so, I think most of these people are, meanwhile, they just want to live their life. They want to come here. They want a better opportunity. And I do think we need to fix our immigration system to allow that to be possible, and not punitive, which right now our system's very punitive. Like, I don't know, you go, hey, I'm willing to hire lawyers and pay fees and do paperwork and jump through hoops for years. And like, our system's just like, yeah, not good enough. Like, really? It's like, but I love America. They go, yeah.
For you.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun living in America. Get out of here. So, I mean, they do need to fix it. But there is going to be a percentage of people who, and now that's the question. Like, okay, you get caught. Do they just deport you? Or you go, well, I filed asylum. They go, okay, well, you didn't show up for your court date. I think what's going to probably happen is a lot of these people are they're the people who made an asylum plea. And then they said, okay, show up for your next court date. And then they went, all right, I'll see you later. I'm going to use my free flights around America card you got me and just fly somewhere. And so I think a lot of these cats are going to probably get another court date. And this time they're like, if you don't show up to the court date, next time we get you, we're sending you back, So I would imagine that's how it's going to go. Perhaps they just get straight deported. I think with the way all of our legal system goes, that might be, we'll see. But if I had to guess, it's rare that we take that hard of a stance. Normally there's some sort of bureaucratic middle ground approach to these things. So that'd be my guess. It'll be a pain in the ass for them, but, that's how it works. Like, You were trying to cheat. Even though they were lied to, they know they're gaming the system. They're just like, yeah, the system has this little cheat code. You say these words, and then like they basically leave you alone. Maybe one day you're a citizen. And but if you're trying to, because like you can apply for citizenship anytime you want, but you don't. And yeah, the system's arduous. Like it's tough. It's not good. But you know what you're doing. I mean, to a degree, you know, you're trying to be sneaky. So all that is happening, and they're kicking the people out. They're sending back them to, quote, the Mexican president, the previous one, not the chosen one. All right. So this has reverberations at home, Charlie. And this is something very Florida-centric. It might not be interesting for everyone. I don't care. We're in Florida, but also Florida is the third biggest state in the union. And, DeSantis was a favorite to be president before Trump decided he was going to just make sure he was going to keep running. And then he was not a favorite to be president. But DeSantis called an emergency session. Actually, before I go into this kind of ties to it. One thing with Trump in this executive order is, here, we'll pull this up here. So this is the executive order about securing our borders. Section 1, the purpose. Over the last 4 years, the United States has endured a large-scale invasion at an unprecedented level. Millions of illegal aliens, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so really that first sentence is what I want to talk about. When you see that, the United States has endured a large-scale invasion at an unprecedented level, what do you think about that? What thoughts you got?
Where are my guns?
Well, it seems like Trump language, right? It's big, bold Trump language. It's kind of meaningless. Well, constitutional powers, right? The federal government's in charge of the border. States suddenly have border enforcement authorities in the case of an invasion. Oh. Now, that was always one of those things. Texas and maybe Florida too. During the Biden administration, they were trying to say, well, this is an invasion. I should be, like Texas was like, it's an invasion. I should be able to build the wall with all the parts that have been left behind, you know, and later sold for pennies on the dollar. So I think a purpose of his Section 1 purpose is simply like if the president, the chief executive of the country, if he's saying this is considered an invasion, and as a state you say this is considered an invasion, it would be hard. I don't know how it would, like, I don't know what else you need to legally declare something an invasion. Does Congress have to go, it's an invasion? You know, like how many steps? But, you know, the commander in chief of our military says we're being invaded. Well, now suddenly, all border states, border with water or land, now they're authorized to take action to enforce immigration policy. And I think that's why he's been using that word so much throughout his first week. It's only been a week. I mean, this dude's going. He's going.
I saw some satirical joke the other day that said something about Congress is trying to force Trump to take a day off or something like that.
Yeah. He just got, I mean, to do, like, even if you think about Inauguration Day, like, he signs all those executive orders, and he goes to a ball or whatever, and he leaves the ball, and he goes back to an office, and he signs executive orders while doing a press conference. And, like, you can't do everything by executive order. Some of these are advising, like they advised that we declassify JFK, RFK, and MLK. Like, get to it. So that's kind of an appropriate use of executive order, is giving executive commands to departments under you. That's what you do. And then other stuff, you do kind of fake legislation that'll be there until another president says go away. And that's what you have to not do a lot of, or you do it and then legislation passes. All right. So it's an invasion, right? So now our states can do stuff. Well, that's right. We got stuff in Chrome. Well, in Florida, Ron DeSantis called a special session, right? The House says, I don't know if it's an emergency for real or not. And DeSantis is like, yeah, man, we're calling this session. And so what he wanted to do was to put in laws to help enforce the overall Trump immigration policy, right? And so he's got some stuff he wants to see done, kind of I would like to see this stuff. And then we've got this dude, get out of here, Joe Gruters, who I think is Senator Joe Gruters. Okay. So I guess he sponsored this. It's the Trump Act. Look forward to supporting and leading the effort to pass the President Trump's agenda here in Florida by ensuring we have more badges, more beds to hold illegal aliens, and a laser on us catching bad guys, criminals who violate our law. So, old Joe Gruters, he says, we got this good thing. It's called the Trump Act. Let's do Trump's agenda. And so you hear that and you go, well, that should be probably what old boy's looking for. But it ends up that him and a number of Republicans are at odds with DeSantis over this Trump Act. So I've not listened to this yet, so we're going to all hear it together for the first time. This is DeSantis' message earlier today.
So we called a special session of the Florida legislature in part to focus on immigration enforcement and to assist the Trump administration in this historic effort to finally have enforcement of immigration laws and secure our country once and for all. The legislature did not want to do it. They said it was premature, but they did come in today and gavelled in on their session on immigration.
Gabble.
We had a series of very, very strong proposals. While they included some of the things we said, most of the stuff that's really, really going to be meaningful was not in the proposal put forward by leaders of the Florida legislature, the Republican leaders. You have to have a requirement that state and local entities actively cooperate with immigration enforcement federally. Otherwise, none of this stuff is going to amount to much. They gutted the interior enforcement provisions that we had where we're all working in unison. It's not enough to just say we're not a sanctuary state, which we're not. It's not enough to just say we don't have sanctuary cities, which we don't. We need everybody on board. We got to work as a team. Otherwise, this stuff just isn't going to work.
All right. So far you're saying we need to have a policy, a state policy for working with the federal people. And you're like, I tossed out some ideas and these cats gave something that's weak. All right.
They also bizarrely strip immigration enforcement power from the governor and give it to the commissioner of agriculture. But agriculture has not exactly been known for immigration enforcement. So it's almost like the fox guarding the hen house. It was bizarre. I think it was more.
Charlie, if you're the commissioner of agriculture, that means you talk to a lot of farmers. What do you think? What do you think they want you to do with illegal immigration?
I wonder.
What do you think? Come on.
I mean, we're gonna just go through all the fields. Is that the plan, guys?
Because there are migrant farm workers, and then there's illegals. Sometimes those are better known as slaves. And the nice thing about illegals is you can promise to pay them and then not pay them. And then if they complain, you call ICE. You go, hey, I'm Yegra, and you just get them out. And so it's great for people. I'm sure all the farmers are on the up and up, especially in the sugarcane fields.
Yeah.
But, which I feel like they donate to somebody a lot. Maybe all the people. All right, let's hear how it goes. But yeah, the idea that like the person you're going to be putting in charge of legal immigration is the guy who's like in charge of agriculture. It's like, all right.
Or a SOP to folks who want cheap labor. That is totally bad policy. That can't happen. They also bizarrely didn't include things we know needs to happen. It should be a crime for an illegal alien to register to vote.
So there's
We've been trying to do this for years. Now's the time to do it. They did not include that in their proposal, which was very disappointing. And then we also need to crack down on illegal alien gangs. We had very strong provisions to do that. That was not in what the legislative leaders proposed. Now, they've named this bill the Trump Act, but that's a misnomer.
Remind me about the
President
gang
Trump's
thing.
been very strong coming out of the gate on immigration enforcement. He wants to solve this problem once and for all. The bill they did is more window dressing. It is not going to solve the problem. We're not here for theatrics. We're not here to do messaging bills. The only thing we need to do is to do things that are going to actually solve the problems for Floridians once and for all. People of Florida have spoke loud and clear over many election cycles that they want to be strong on illegal immigration. We have so many great potentials to be working collaboratively with the federal government. I've been speaking with folks in the administration, but what the legislature do not only will not allow us to do it, it will actively inhibit some of the things we're already doing. So now's the time.
Let's see. So that's him kind of giving a summary. Some of this is going to be in this article, but all right. So what do you hear in that? Let's.
He seems excited.
Does not seem happy about it, does he?
No.
Now, the thing that brings me the most joy about this is it has put DeSantis and the conservative and MAGA arm of the Republican Party in opposition of Wilton Simpson. And I do not like Wilton Simpson. He used to be the president of our Senate. He is the reason we don't have constitutional carry.
Ah, yes.
It made it to his desk. All he had to do was allow it to be debated and voted upon. I was thinking, like, here you go. Should you allow debate and voting? And he would go, no. Gun Owners of America, we go to visit them. And they'd give them a whole informative packet about constitutional carry, gun legislation, all this kind of stuff. Just nice informative stuff. They leave. They come back. They go, I forgot something. They pop back in. Suddenly their whole packet's in the trash can. And they go, that was a mistake. Let me just, sorry. Oh. And they go, it's like, well, you're not the senator. You're not allowed to decide what goes in the trash, you admin. Oh, no, I would never do that, And so it was that kind of thing. He withheld it because, I was going to jump to this later about why I hate him so much. But after the Marjorie, what the hell was that school called? The school shooting. The
Parkland?
Yeah, I don't know.
In Florida?
The Florida one.
Parkland was Florida. Yeah.
Well, their school was called something. Marjorie Taylor Greene School or something.
Oh.
Stone Douglas. But after that shooting, Wilton Simpson presented one of his bills for some common sense gun reform. And he passed things for red flag laws. So, if you call the cops on someone and say, they so crazy, they go, well, you lose your right to guns until we have a hearing. And you go, well, that doesn't seem like my rights have been uninfringed, And so that was the thing. So Wilton Simpson was very proud of himself that he was able to get this gun control legislation passed in Florida with a Republican Congress after a shooting without much to do. And so that was like his thing. And because of that, he wouldn't let constitutional carry come up because he didn't want other gun legislation. He is very anti-gun. He's all about banning bump stocks, which, look, bump stocks are stupid, but they're a fun little toy and they don't hurt anybody. And you go, it lets you shoot fast. Well, you can do it with your belt loop. You're going to ban belt loops. Like, it's just more convenient than a belt loop. Like, that's what we're talking about here. So my concern, Wilton Simpson ran for the Department of Agriculture. He's the commissioner. And I was hoping he would lose. He did not lose. He won. So I'm sitting here looking at a guy who's been president of the Senate as a Republican. He's now the Republican Department of Agriculture commissioner. And then going like, what was it, Adam Putnam or whatever? He damn near became governor when DeSantis kind of like blew in out of nowhere and like just kind of stole the win. And so you just go, that's the path right there. Like, we're going to be stuck with Wilton Simpson. And we knew it. Like, I just didn't know how it could not happen. It's a red state. He's the Republican. He'll probably, at this point, he is. When you're the president of the Senate or the Speaker of the House, you don't just decide what gets voted on. You also help decide what funds go different directions. You build a coalition. You build a deep state. You get people who are loyal, and the people who are disloyal, you punish them, send them out to pasture, and you primary them and try and get someone else that will be a little bit more loyal. So you went through that. He has, maybe a machine is a little strong, but he has a network, And I did not know how anyone would overcome that. And I just thought, like, we're staring, like Governor Simpson's coming, and we're just going to have to take it, But now, I don't know. DeSantis is mad at him, so maybe not. Let's see. All right, let's read about this. This is from the Capitolists. Pretty clever. Florida GOP leaders fire back at DeSantis, accuse him of misrepresenting immigration bill. So the Florida Republican legislative leaders on Monday forcefully rejected Governor DeSantis' criticisms of their immigration bill. Senate President Ben Albitron and that's Ben Albitron, Senate President now, that's right. House Speaker Daniel Perez, both Republicans, issued a statement pushing back, asserting that calling his portrayal of the bill completely untrue. The governor did not read President Trump's executive orders before calling a special session, senators said in the joint statement. As a matter of fact, they didn't exist. And it would appear he didn't read Senate Bill 2B and House Bill 1B before issuing a response on social media. He leveled serious and inappropriate insults at his fellow cabinet officer, local law enforcement officers, and our agricultural community. Oh, yeah, I guess the cheap labor thing, but come on. It's like...
Such a reach.
I know, it's like saying, well, construction really likes illegal immigration.
The audacity.
You say there's illegal immigrants on a construction site? To impugn the integrity of the construction industry. I remember Bulletproof was talking about how much cheaper it was having a whole team full of illegal Mexicans. He's like, every now and then they shut them down. He's like, but bail's cheaper than hiring legal people. And then you go and go, oh, well, all right. Like, I guess, whatever you say. All right. So, yeah, they're bringing it all from DeSantis' video statement. The governor referred to the bill as a bait and switch tactic and claimed that it would actively inhibit some of the things we're already doing. He argued that the legislation fails to... we heard what he said. You heard that. The bill, tackling and reforming unlawful migration policy, the Trump bill, was introduced on I hate the people that name bills. Like...
I don't even want to know how long it took them to come up with that.
Oh, I know. And like, I'm okay with SB1. I can deal with that. All right, so it was introduced by Senators Joe Gruters and Randy Fine and consolidates immigration enforcement under the state's Department of Agriculture, an agency led by Agriculture Commissioner Wilton Simpson. The proposed legislation would additionally increase funding for law enforcement and detention facilities, strengthen collaboration between the local and the federal immigration agencies, and repeal in-state tuition for undocumented students, a policy enacted by Rick Scott. Albitron and Perez dismissed DeSantis' concerns, saying that Simpson's office already has law enforcement capabilities and that the bill does not strip the governor of his emergency powers. Remember that. They said DeSantis claims the bill unconstitutionally removes authority to enforce law. This statement is completely untrue, and the governor knows that. Under our bill, the governor will maintain all of his emergency powers, noting that the Florida Department of Ag has a law enforcement division with 200 sworn officers already. DeSantis also criticized the bill for failing to make it a crime for undocumented immigrants to register to vote, a measure he advocated for years. He said it was very disappointing. They don't really address that. So the legislature, which has largely supported DeSantis' agenda over the past 5 years, has begun to assert itself more forcefully. On top of attempting to strip DeSantis of his immigration authority, lawmakers voted on Monday to override DeSantis' veto of more than $56 million in funding for legislative operations, the first veto override in his tenure. In their statement, they appeared to take aim at DeSantis' approach, suggesting that the legislature would not be swayed by political theatrics. The legislature will not act in a disingenuous or dishonorable way by attacking anyone, especially our law enforcement. About the blue. Unlike others, the legislature is not interested in misleading. Look forward to supporting and leading the efforts to pass his agenda. All right. So, what you think is the reason why suddenly, after all these years, the House and the Senate in Florida is like, you know what? We're going to stand up to you, Ron DeSantis.
I mean, I don't know if they feel is it because they want Wilton? Is it because they support Wilton and not Daddy D?
Well, regardless of who they support, old Daddy D, as you call him, he won't be governor again after this, right?
Right.
He got reelected by huge, 20 points or something like that. Ran for president, didn't work out. They changed the law to allow him to run for president. A little funny. They were allowing whatever DeSantis wanted for a while. They would figure it out. He said this. He said, let's jump. They went, let's figure out how to jump, And, but someone's got to be governor next. So now you have to be able to run as probably a Trump Republican. You don't want to be a DeSantis Republican. Maybe you want to be like DeSantis, but you're a Trump Republican because Trump will still be president. And but you need to separate yourself. There'll be somebody, I don't know who yet, but there's gonna be somebody who's basically DeSantis goes, this is my person. This is my heir apparent. And so that person is basically run on like, I've been deeply involved with the DeSantis administration for 8 years, and we've done wonderful things. And so now other people have to come out and be like, well, it's been great, and I support the Donald Trump agenda and everything, but DeSantis did some things that I just don't think are right. And there are some, in the lead up to him running for president, he did do a lot of like red meat nonsense, which I expressed my concern about it in terms of being a serious leader and effects on, it's the Chris Christie in New Jersey thing. We go, whatever the news cycle is at the time, I'm going to do a law about that. And it gets overturned because it's not constitutional. You do these executive order things that get you on the news. Like, look at this tough Republican, So they could do that. But the problem is a lot of that is social war stuff that they probably want to say they're on the same side with, So now I imagine that Wilton Simpson did not think or knows for a fact he's not going to get DeSantis' endorsement and that someone else is, and that his network, they are, like you said, they want Wilton to get elected because he's got positions to fill after that. Bring you up with him. That's the horse you back. So just how about then we think about the claims. Now, one of the things that they said was that they don't think that Ron DeSantis has read the bill. Okay? Well, I'm a fun guy, Charlie. And I've read the bill. So, one of the things they say, DeSantis goes, this is going to stop things we're doing right now. And they go, nah, it's not going to stop anything. It's not going to stop anything. You still have all your powers. Well, down here on page 82, let's see. Section 44. Notwithstanding, Section 252.36, Florida Statutes, Executive Order, renewed by executive orders, this, that, this one, they may not be renewed. Once the state of emergency expires, he called it a state of emergency over immigration, I believe. Once it expires, it can't be renewed, but for early termination would have expired. The governor may not issue a subsequent state of emergency with respect to the same substantially similar issue or circumstance. So they say this emergency order, which don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of calling emergency powers, but one thing this bill does is it says all the emergency orders that DeSantis has in order right now that he's using to do stuff, none of them can be renewed, and he can't do anything on a similar topic, which is immigration. So it literally is taking away his emergency powers on immigration.
How long does an emergency situation last?
Well, that's the messed up part, Charlie. That's why I don't like it. Like, they should last for the extent of an actual emergency, defined by it actually being an emergency. You know, like if if a country was sending a whole like navy to invade Florida, I would call that an immigration emergency. You know, and then you'll kind of understand that we don't have an immigration emergency, and I'm fine with challenging the emergency powers of the governor and saying you got no right to them. But that's not what they're saying here. What this bill says is he can't do any more emergency orders, but Wilton Simpson can. And that's where it's squirrely. You go, oh, okay. And like, it'll take me a while to go through all this to get to the top again. But basically what this bill does is it establishes a Department of Immigration Enforcement at the Department of Agriculture that does not exist. It strips every mention of anything outside the Department of Agriculture communicating with the federal government about immigration issues. It makes Wilton Simpson like the lone person that can talk to the federal government about immigration stuff. He's the only one that can advise on the number of beds available for federal government to use for immigration things. He's the only one. Basically, anything that has to do with immigration has to go through him personally as the new, like, not only is he the commissioner of agriculture, he's basically the new head of all things immigration. He has a title and everything. Now they say, okay, well, you can't get paid to be, but he has a committee. He's got a committee. It's got to have, I think like 20 people. It's going to be cops and all that, but he can't get paid. But you know what you can have? A staff, travel costs, per diem. Okay? Now, right below where they say all of DeSantis' executive orders cannot be renewed, we have this, Section 45. For the 2024-2025, what year is this, Charlie?
2025.
That's interesting. The sums of $20,562,630 in recurring funds and $484,467,609 in one-time non-recurring funds are appropriated from the General Revenue Fund to the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to implement this act. For those doing the math at home, that is over $500 million. And most of it a one-time expense.
The General Revenue Fund, is that money even in there?
Oh, we got cash.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm doing. In my run, we're canceling a lot of taxes because our sales tax cover everything. Like, we could have, just in sales tax revenue, which includes tourist tax and all that, we'll have a $1 billion surplus every year. Every year. And so...
That's half of it.
Yeah, I know. And even more so since they, like, vetoed his veto. So...
Didn't they say he didn't read the bill?
That's what he said. That's what they said.
Clearly, he's read the bill. Well, yeah, if he's worried.
His staff read the bill.
Yeah, somebody read the bill.
Yeah. But This is the nice thing about state legislation and county to that degree. They give you a bill. Underlined means new. Crossed out means it's been removed. Everything else is what exists today. That's all there is to it. This is 75 pages. It's a lot. I scrolled and I looked for new. And then when there's new stuff, most of the new stuff was just... Most of the stuff in this was scratching out the state having a right to do stuff and saying Wilton Simpson does it now. I mean, that's most of this thing. Most of this thing is just Wilton Simpson does this now. Wilton Simpson has a team to do it now, and he can travel to do it now and get reimbursed for his travel to do it now. Wilton Simpson is going to be the immigration god of Florida to the point that maybe he doesn't want to be governor because he won't get to be the immigration god. And guess who? If you are big sugar, who are you going to pay?
All right. Yep.
I mean, how lucrative.
Interesting.
How lucrative is this? Florida, for those who don't know, Big Sugar is big here. We let them set their fields on fire because it saves them money in clearing their fields, and it just rains ash on all the nice people down in Wellington and Fort Lauderdale area. What is that? West Palm, that whole area. Just we rain down ash on them. We pollute the water. But you know what? Fat envelope full of cash. It all goes away. For anybody not paying attention, America has a little issue with sugar. We like it too much. It's in all the things. And for those of us who try to get away from sugar, it's shockingly difficult. It chases you down. He goes, oh, no, we're in this too.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, a lot of the drink manufacturers, they'll just replace it with salt. So now you have a salty drink because it kind of mimics sugar.
Or you do both.
Oh.
I mean, it makes sense for electrolytes with certain ratios. But anyway. So let's see. Let's see some of the money spent on this. $852,000 salary and benefits. We'll get into that later. What are some big ones here?
It just says expenses. $3 million, $3.5 million in expenses.
Yeah, they got expenses.
Is that like, was that
Hookers?
hookers?
Cocaine?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like,
Sometimes you have to go to Cafe Risque. I blanked on it. Sometimes you gotta go to Cafe Risque for a nice meeting when you're way from south to north, you know? Just see what it be. Sign up for a...
well, is that gonna be enough then?
I mean, no, probably won't be. Not if you're signing up for the trucker showers, you know. So there's, yeah, 13 million. Here's the big thing. 13 million for the, okay, hold on. Let's go back a little bit. All right. To the Department of Management, Human Resources. 19 million should be allocated to the Division of Law Enforcement / Office of State Immigration Enforcement and specific appropriations. 13 million salaries. Yeah, so what this also does is it creates a new law enforcement department. Oh. And they say it's not new because Department of Agriculture already has law enforcement. Sure. Kind of.
Like Florida Wildlife.
I don't know if they do count as it, to be honest. Like
they write tickets.
Yeah, I just don't know if they're Department of Ag.
Oh, yeah.
But Department, they have, I think they are the people that go and like inspect farms, make sure you're not abusing people and you don't have some tired old mule chained to a tractor. I don't know. I mean, they have law enforcement, but it's not big. I imagine there's not lots of arrests. I don't think you use your service weapon outside of shooting cans on a fence post too often. I think it's probably a pretty chill law enforcement kind of gig. But now we're building a department. And so he gets to have an army. So we'll have state law enforcement, and we'll have municipal law enforcement, and then we'll have Wilton Simpson's agriculture army. And in certain...
The agro army.
Yeah, feeling aggro on this. But in times of emergencies... I'll see if I can scroll through and find it again. I'm pretty sure he gets to like be the boss of law enforcement because it talks about local and state law enforcement, that he becomes, like, in terms of immigration, that he gets to be the boss of all things like immigration enforcement down to, they specifically mention local law enforcement. It's in here. Everyone can read this. This is, I think this is the Senate Bill 1B. There's House Bill 1B too. Maybe this is House Bill. They're the same thing. They're same thing. You got to pass it on both sides. But so far, DeSantis is more accurate than Senate and House majority. Let's see. From the non-recurring... Oh, yeah. So that was from the recurring thing. So the 13 mil in sales is per year. 13, 14 mil. That's per year. From non-recurring, if you remember, that was basically $500 million of one-time expenses. Let's see. Going to the executive direction, $9 million will be allocated to the Division of Law Enforcement, Office State Immigration Enforcement. That'll be 1.5 in your favorite expenses. $1.5 million for expenses. $500,000 operating capital. $6 million in acquisitions of motor vehicles. So $6 million in vehicles. $500,000 in acquisitions of boats, motors, and trailers. And then another $500,000 in contracted services. So they get to spend $500,000 on boats. Boats are awesome. I like boats. But Department of Agriculture was about to get a Navy. Let's see what else we got. They're going to hire 142 full-time employees. Basically at an average of $60,000 a year. You go, well, that's a lot, but hold on. That's not all. They're also going to get 7 full-time employees that are like at $80,000 a year. And they lay out those. And then they'll get another cat. Oh, no, that's just more appropriation. Wait. From non-recurring general revenue funds, $100 million shall be allocated to specific appropriation special category local law enforcement immigration grant program. The amount, $3.75 million, will be released immediately. Just becoming law. They'll be used for administrative costs associated with developing and implementing.
Are you kidding me?
That's $4 million just to come up with a plan to issue grants. The division shall develop an implementation plan, including procedures and administration and criteria. We got procedures, criteria, and we're going to administrate that whole damn thing.
So expensive.
For approving grant applications. I mean, come on, you got to have procedures and criteria. The implementation plan shall be submitted to the President of the Senate. Who used to be the President of the Senate, Charlie?
Was this Wilton? Is this
Wilton.
Wilton.
And so now his homie, who submitted this bill, will have to approve Wilton's expenditures or his implementation plan. So his plan, so Wilton will have a plan he submits to his lackey.
There's no conflict of interest at all.
Yeah, Charlie, you're always so negative. We're trying to get things done. Trying to screw the Mexicans here, Charlie. Come on. Trying to steal our country, take our jobs. Let's see what else we got. $375 million should be allocated to specific appropriation of implementation and support of enforcement of federal immigration policies. Okay, to be implement whatever. Break it down for me somewhere. You're not going to break this one down. It's just $375 million that just goes to whatever. Support federal access to training facilities. Grants to local law enforcement to retain existing law enforcement officers, to retain or attract new officers, and grants to pay costs incurred by local law enforcement that were necessary for full support of this thing. Always so necessary. I don't even remember if I saw this. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Whatever. Whatever isn't spent goes back to some office, to the emergency management office. And let's see. Okay.
Was this written in 2024 originally? Is that why that year is included?
Well, fiscal years. So,
get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know when the fiscal years begin and end, but I think we're in the tail end.
Is it October to? I know DOD.
It might.
DOD is like ends in October. I think.
Well.
Their cycle.
Yeah. Maybe. Oh, that could be. So we could be at the beginning. That could be 4 or 5. The last one was 5.
I think
Maybe.
October,
Yeah, you might be right. I was thinking that we're in the tail end of it, but I think it's the other way around. I think we're just kicking it off. Let's see if I can find anything real quick. But here, look, you scroll through it, all that. See, all this is how normal things are run already. Now, you can say it's stupid. I probably agree. But these are all the stuff that isn't changed.
So a bunch of money was underlined. Cool.
Oh, yeah, the money was added. And the thing is, the chief immigration officer, that's what he'd be called, the chief immigration officer. He'd have a new title. On
CIO.
Yep. When deemed necessary to respond to immigration-related emergencies, shall request assistance from the governor for the activation and deployment of the Florida National Guard. He is able to call the National Guard. He's allowed to get the governor to deploy the National Guard. I missed this earlier. I was on the phone with this woman who was telling me about Walmart, and I just needed an insurance certificate issued. I had 45 minutes of what it's like to try and do a return to Walmart.com. It's not easy. That's all I'm saying. It's not easy. Anyway, yeah, the chief immigration officer can call out the National Guard. That's not his job. Like, beef about powers that people have, but you just can't give new people governor powers, like executive powers. That's just not their job.
Yeah, what farm needs the National Guard?
Yeah. Listen, it's for agriculture.
Right.
Let's see. During the declared state of emergency for illegal immigration, the chief immigration officer shall coordinate with and advise the state. There it is. Shall coordinate with and advise state and local law enforcement agencies for the purpose of securing compliance with this chapter. So, like, it's authorizing Wilton Simpson to control, like. But what do you say?
All emergency declarations and orders, regardless of how titled.
Okay.
So you can make it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can title it however you want to. You can go, it's a... Oh, you know what that means, though? You could say it's an emergency, a hurricane emergency, but it's also an immigration. Just because it's titled Hurricane Emergency Relief doesn't mean it's not an immigration emergency order. Wow. What is this guy? Let's see. Let's see if there's anything else. So what, all right. Yeah, we don't need, let's just go away. Wow.
Yeah, can this bill go away? Jesus.
It's something, right? and the unfortunate thing is I think one of the bills that DeSantis likes is House Bill 1A, I think. And that one is just about like declaring if you're part of like a terrorist organization or something, or a multinational drug cartel. Basically, it like ups the fines on crimes. And you go, okay. Oh, let me go back to voting on this in a second. But one of the problems is there's also a thing for hate groups. And it says hate groups are the same thing as Osama bin Laden, is the same thing as, mafia, whatever. But what the hell's a hate group? When people, Nazis, the Klan. It's like, okay. But the Libertarian Party was called by the Anti-Defamation League. They were defined as a hate group. Now, if you're an officer in the Pinellas Libertarian party and you get arrested for whatever, are you suddenly getting an elevated charge because you're part of a hate group? And like people who are these Republicans and these MAGA types, they should remember that they're called a hate group. They're called all this stuff. MAGA was called terrorist. The PTA, the parents that are going to PTA meetings were called terrorists, and all, like the number of people who have been called terrorists or hate groups. You really got to be real careful how you should not make legislation, especially when you're talking about, I'm a Republican, I'm going to make special legislation to help the Donald Trump agenda. And it's like, well, he seems to be opposed to lawfare, a word I didn't know existed, and I kind of hate that it's being used so much, but apparently it did exist. It's just weaponizing the legal system. It's fine. It's just everybody started saying it one day.
It doesn't sound right.
It's just...
lawfare.
I know. They all started saying it, and And I was like, that's stupid. Then I Googled it. I'm like, damn it, it's a word. I was like,
lawfare.
and I was like, I'm not saying this. I'm like, shit, it's a word. It means what I want to say. But you can't like codify lawfare into the Florida system in the name of the Trump agenda. Like, he says he doesn't like it. He says he doesn't like it. But okay. So one of the things that's in here is if you vote illegally or you try to conspire to help someone else vote illegally, like you're an illegal alien and you vote, or you help an illegal alien to vote, it ups the charges on it. But DeSantis is right. They do not make it illegal to register to vote, which is interesting. And they even say in this, if you vote or help someone illegal vote, you cannot use a defense that you were unsure about your status as a legal citizen or not. Like, you can't say, I didn't know. But one easy way to stop that would be if you don't let people who aren't legally allowed to vote register to vote. If they just can't register, that's when they would find out. They'd be like, hey, you can't register. And you go, what? And either you fix it or maybe you get the hell out of there. But what you don't do is, if you legitimately don't know, you don't accidentally commit a felony, you know, because that's not a good way to go. But DeSantis was right. This was not addressed in here. Look at all what's that? I know I've already pulled this off the screen. Yeah,
Their defense is that DeSantis isn't supporting this, which means he's not supporting Trump's agenda. But this doesn't support Trump's agenda.
Right. This is the Trump bill. They call it that so that all the Republicans can say, I voted for the Trump bill. You know, it's cover. And it's, I think it's Wilton Simpson, because there's, people have been going after him on the Twitters, which has been lovely. And so he was like, whatever, you ran against him for president. I didn't try to do that. I support Donald Trump. You try to be president, not have him be president. And you're like, all right, But obviously, this should not become law. We cannot authorize the Department of Agriculture to be the immigration god with a full military enforcement arm.
And giving him $500 million.
That's just in the one time.
Right.
It's just the one time.
That's
There's
right.
$20 million a year on top of that for now until they appropriate more money. And the weird thing is, like, the press is all, because the press doesn't like DeSantis. And so even though they don't like the Republicans, they go, well, we'll take these guys while they're attacking this guy. And so, like, the press is all about it. Democrats are all about it. And it's one of those things, like, I don't know. We're about to see how much political oomph DeSantis has. I imagine he's going to be getting on the horn with the other Daddy D. Now, imagine he's going to get on the horn with Trump and be like, hey, you need to come out in opposition to this. Like, this is some crazy stuff. And, it's just the amount of control Sugar will have over the state when they're able to have, because, all right, say Wilton leaves. Say Wilton's a good guy. Let's say he's a good guy. And he becomes governor, so now he doesn't have the power. He's just one of those sickly ass governors in there. Well, the next guy, like, if you're running, so local elections, state elections are cheaper than federal, right? If you're trying to buy a politician, why buy the governor when you buy the commissioner of agriculture? Put in however much money you got to. And it's just like, now you can have as many illegals as you want. Like, you can do, like, you own law enforcement for the whole state. Like, you have everything. And, when the federal government comes, you go, talk to my guy. He says we don't have any beds available. He says there's no beds available. Sorry, we got sugar cane to cut. It's
You don't even need a governor at that point.
yeah. The commissioner of agriculture is our new governor.
This is nuts.
Yeah, it is truly nuts. First I was just having some delightful Schadenfreude about people attacking Wilton Simpson because I was like, good, like lose your luster. Do not be moving forward in this game of politic. But then I, got into this stuff, and you're just like, this is horrendous, just horrendous. All right, we'll end with something kind of light here, because we're about to hear about how cool we are, because we're basically important people now. And what am I doing? Talk it, lady.
This White House believes
White
strongly
House press
in the First
correspondent.
Amendment, so it's why our team will work diligently to restore the press passes of the 440 journalists whose passes were wrongly revoked by the previous administration.
I have no idea who that was.
We're also opening up this briefing room to new media voices who produce news-related content and whose outlet is not already represented by one of the seats in this room.
We're news related.
We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House. And you can apply now on our new website, whitehouse.gov/new media.
New media.
Starting today, this seat in the front of the room, which is usually occupied by the press secretary's staff, will be called the new media seat. My team will review the application.
All right.
I was waiting for something more dramatic than that. It was just like a waste of a name.
And we're gonna call it doo-doo seat.
Right.
No, it's you do hear that, you go, wonder how tough the paperwork is. Matt, like, I'm gonna fill it out. I do it. Do it. Do I think the odds are great? No. But imagine getting approved and just being like, I've got to go to Washington, D.C. to ask questions for the podcast? It's like, I am important.
Awesome.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. So I don't know. Look, all that to say, people, we are your news media. We are the important ones. Not the NBCs, New York Times. Who even reads the New York Times? We are the important ones, and we rule the world. And we will have Wilton Simpson's power. What do you got, Charv?
Doo-doo seat.
Doo-doo seat. All right, like, subscribe, follow us on all the things. Watch us on the videos, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the Spotifys. We're on the videos on the Spotifys. Yeah, until then, just doo-doo seat to you, Charlie.